Good morning, online students as well. Okay, so we are going to start a new topic today. What is the topic that we are going to start is from here you're going to get a lot of questions. Food chain, food webs, very simple topic. Looks very simple but very important. Good morning, Ayushi. Okay, so it's very important that you should focus on the food chain and food webs. Do not consider it as something. Do not consider it as something which is very easy. What happens, lot of students just skip the topic thinking that बहुत easy है, but UP PCS always asks some question or maybe any prelims for that matter, not only UP PCS, your BPSC, HPPCS, जम्मू एंड कश्मीर, छत्तीसगढ़, जितने से भी आप PCS किसी से भी दे रहे हैं, उनके लिए फूड वेब, फूड चेन इसके अंदर इम्पोर्टेंट है. ठीक है, ऑल राइट. So we are going to start with energy flow. Okay. So what is energy flow? Energy flow. क्या मतलब है energy flow का? This concept is important in order to explain the whole concept of food chain and food. What is energy flow? Energy flow का क्या मतलब है? हाँ, तो कैसे? What kind of bodies that we are talking about? Plant से? Yes. So there is energy flow which is happening. Do you think if I am eating something or probably you are eating something, then the transfer of energy is going to be the amount of energy which is stored in the plants, and what you will receive is going to be same? It will dissipate, right? Why? Why there is a loss of energy? हम कोई पर्टिकुलर कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं. We are just interrogating, we are just asking to each other why this phenomena is happening and why this is not happening. अगर हो रहा है तो क्यों हो रहा है, नहीं हो रहा है तो क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, right? So we are just doing that. ये कोई particular topic पे हम नहीं गए अभी तक. ठीक है. If I am eating something, then why I am not getting the full energy like from the plants or any other thing you're eating, maybe the non-veg. It's not about plants only. I am vegetarian, pure vegetarian. That's why I'm talking about cereals. क्यों? वही मैं पूछ रही हूँ. रेस्पिरेशन ऑफ व्हाट? किसकी रेस्पिरेशन में? हमारी रेस्पिरेशन में या फिर प्लांट्स की रेस्पिरेशन में? हमारे में तो जो हम लोगों को खा जाएंगे उनके लिए we have to consider. Like if somebody would have been lion, like if I consider lion been eaten by somebody else, right? या फिर deer is eaten by somebody else. So if one person, if a lion is eating deer, so then I'll consider the respiration of deer. पर अभी हम छोटी सी बात करते हैं. If we are eating any cereal or any plants, and what will happen? जो भी ट्रांसफर होगा एनर्जी का वो उतना नहीं होगा जितना स्टोर है. रीजन बीइंग half of the energy will be used in the different what processes of the plants itself. What are the basic processes? Respiration, its metabolic processes, and other processes which is required for the sustenance, right? उनकी खुद की भी तो एक requirement है, need है, right? And it will be used for that. After using all those things, what will happen? जो store होगी energy, that will be taken up by the other people. Like for example, if I am eating, then the transfer of energy will come to the humans or any other species for that matter, maybe deer, maybe cow, anybody who is eating the plants. कितने लोगों को ये बात समझ में आ रहा है कि क्यों ट्रांसफर ऑफ एनर्जी, जो एनर्जी का फ्लो है वो लॉस होता है? ठीक है, होता है ये हमें पता है, क्यों होता है ये नहीं पता था, राइट? नाउ द सेकंड फैक्ट इज, do you think if once the energy has been flowed from one person to another person, it can come back? No. So what is this? This is unidirectional. This is unidirectional. So how many points we have regarding this till now? 2. ठीक है, किसी को कोई प्रॉब्लम? ठीक है, लिखिए फिर.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt you in between. मैम ड्यू टू नेटवर्क इशू आज मैं थोड़ा लेट ज्वाइन कर पाई सो इज दिस द फर्स्ट टॉपिक फॉर दिस क्लास टुडे?
Yes, yes, Bhavya, this is entirely new topic. Okay, so you are not going to get any links from the previous topics that we have done.
ओके,
Okay,
थैंक यू मैम.
all right. ठीक है, got it. Now write down energy flow. First point is it is a basic force. It is a basic force. Force. FORSC. Basic force. क्या हो गया सबको? Right? It's a basic force responsible for all metabolic activities. It is a basic force responsible for all metabolic activities, comma, life activities. Life activities. Full stop. Next point. The sun is a primary source of energy. Rashi, that is what the whole concept I've explained to you. कि energy dissipate पूरा क्यों मतलब नहीं होता, वही तो that we have discussed अभी, right? Let me dictate, I'll explain you again. Write down the sun is a primary source. Which is a primary source of energy? Sun. Sun से ही क्या होता है? Which process happens? Which process happens? Photosynthesis process, right? Photosynthesis process is a basic process. उसके लिए क्या चाहिए? Sunlight. Sunlight is a primary. Primary means what? Primary means source. Primary means first, right? It's a first source. उसके बिना, if I just remove the sun from the whole thing, then what will happen? What will happen? If I remove the sun from the whole process, then what will happen? मतलब sun is a primary source, right? And if this will be removed, then what will happen? Huh? Which process? Photosynthesis process will not start. And then what will happen? Food chain खराब हो जाएगी. We'll come to that. Right. Write down. Energy flow. Write down. Energy flow is unidirectional. Next point. Energy flow is unidirectional. Energy flow is unidirectional. Next point. It is always from the producers to the consumers to the decomposers. Full stop. For example, grass is being eaten by grasshoppers. For example, grass is being eaten by grasshoppers, and grasshoppers are being eaten by frogs. Grasshoppers are being eaten by frogs, which are eaten by snakes, and finally, snakes are eaten by eagles. Full stop. Next point. These steps of the food chain. These steps of the food chain are known as trophic level. These steps of the food chain are known as trophic level. TROPHIC. Trophic level.
मैम ये जो आपने पॉइंट लिखाया था द सन इज प्राइमरी सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी, सिर्फ यही एक पॉइंट था कि उसके आगे कुछ लिखना था?
नहीं, यही था, इतना ही।
एंड
Okay.
ग्रास हॉपर आर ईटन बाय व्हिच एनिमल मैम, एक बार बता देंगे?
Frogs. 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 Right.
Frogs.
Now write down.
And snakes been eaten by?
What?
Snakes been eaten by ma'am?
Eagles.
Thank you ma'am.
Okay. Eagles, vultures, anything you can write. Okay. So write down these steps of the food chain. Okay, just I'm repeating again. These steps of the food chain are known as trophic level. That's it. यहीं तक लिखेंगे. Or now add or relative position of the food chain or relative position of the food chain or food web of the food chain or food web. Written. Next point. Energy flows through trophic level in the ecosystem. See, the chart I just explained you. This plants are eaten by who? Grasshoppers. Then grasshoppers are eaten by frogs. Frogs are being eaten by snakes or any. Oh, sorry. Yeah, snakes or any other like eagle, vulture. Okay. So this is known as what your trophic level. Okay. When I'm talking about only single set, this is a single set. Can plants not be eaten by any other species? It can, right? Maybe deer, maybe cow. Can grasshoppers cannot be eaten by anybody else? It can. Similarly, same goes for frogs, same goes for snake, etc. Right? So if I'm talking about only one particular set, this is known as food chain, right? When I'm talking about that plants can be eaten by grasshoppers, by deer also, by cow also, by humans also, by any other species also, which are dependent on the plants. Then again, I'm talking about grasshoppers. Grasshoppers are eaten by some other species as well. Frogs also, snakes also. Then what it becomes? It becomes food web. Now this food web becomes what? Complicated and complex. ये क्या हो जाएगा फिर? Complex, complicated. ये वाला सबसे ज्यादा क्या है? Simple, right? This is known as food chain, a single set. ठीक है? How many of you can get this? कितने लोगों को ये बात समझ में आ रही है? यू नहीं आया? कितनी स्माइल? क्या हुआ? समझ में आया नहीं है? बिकॉज इट्स योर फर्स्ट क्लास, आई नीड टू आस्क यू अगेन एंड अगेन, राइट? Don't shy away. Just ask if you're not getting anything. Bhumika? Right? Okay. So this is known as what? Food chain, and this complex system is known as food web. Getting? Now write down. Food chain. First, write down food chain. First point. It is the sequence of eating and being eaten. It is a sequence of eating and being eaten. Second point, a linear sequence of organism, a linear sequence of organism where nutrients and energies are transferred. A linear sequence of organisms where nutrients and energies, please underline the word nutrients and energy, are transferred from one organism to the other. Second point, a linear sequence. Stop. Now write down types of food chain. Write down types of food chain. See, you will have two types of food chain. When I talk about food chain, you will have two types of food chain. One is a food chain which is starting from plants. What we call it as grazing food chain. ठीक है, जो food chain आपका plant से start होगा उसको क्या बोलेंगे? Grazing food chain. So first write down about grazing food chain. Grazing food chain. Spelling is written on the board. It starts with plants. It starts with plants. It starts with plants. And in example, you can write the previous example that I have given to you, right? Plants dependent, grasshoppers dependent on plants, and they are being eaten by somebody else. So you can add that example here. Okay. Now write down the next detritus food chain. Detritus food chain. Write down. हाँ, अभी एक ही है. नहीं, अभी एक ही है इसमें. ठीक है. Write down detritus food chain. Write down. It starts from. Write down the heading detritus food chain, and then write down. It starts from decaying matter. It starts from decaying matter. ब्रैकेट में लिखेंगे dead organic matter. Dead organic matter. Example, litter. 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 What do you mean by litter? सही बोल रहे, हिंदी में बोल रहे थे. हाँ? Yes, leftovers, right? So write down, litter is being eaten by earthworms. Litter is being eaten by earthworms, which are eaten by birds, which in turn are eaten by hawks. HAWKS. Miss something? Okay, repeating again. Litter is being eaten by earthworms, which are being eaten by birds, which in turn are being eaten by hawks. HAWKS. Just revise this part, take your time, take 2 minutes and let me know if you're not getting any part of it.
मैम मेरा वाला डाउट आप क्लास के बाद बता देंगे एक बार, इफ दैट्स ओके।
अभी पूछ लो।
मैम मेरा यही डाउट था सिर्फ कि जब आपने एनर्जी फ्लो का बताया था, तो आपने कहा था कि एनर्जी सेम नहीं फ्लो करती हर लेवल पे, डिसिपेट हो जाती है। तो मैं बस वही पूछना चाह रही थी कि इसका मतलब क्या है, किस फॉर्म में डिसिपेट होती है मैम?
किस फॉर्म में? रेस्पिरेशन के फॉर्म में डिसिपेट होती है। प्लांट्स अपना मेटाबॉलिक प्रोसेसेस करेंगे, रेस्पिरेशन करेंगे। दे विल आल्सो नीड, जैसे आपको खाना क्यों चाहिए? व्हाई डू यू नीड एनर्जी? बिकॉज फॉर योर ओन मेटाबॉलिक प्रोसेसेस। आपको भी तो इसलिए चाहिए ना, आपकी खुद की भी रिक्वायरमेंट्स है, राइट? एंड हाउ विल यू फंक्शन? फॉर योर फंक्शनल नीड्स यू नीड द फूड, राइट? सो दैट्स व्हाई द फूड इज रिक्वायर्ड। सिमिलरली प्लांट्स की भी कुछ फंक्शनल नीड्स है, and they will use that energy in doing those functions, and the rest of the energy which is being stored, जो उनको खाएगा, then it will be transferred to that species. ठीक है, कोई डाउट? चलिए नेक्स्ट लिखेंगे फूड वेब। राइट डाउन फूड वेब। Food web. First point, write down an interconnected food chain is called as interconnected is a keyword. Interconnected is a keyword. Write down an interconnected food chain is called as food web. Is called as food web. Now write down. Next point. The interconnected, again, the interconnected, comma, interlocking pattern of food chain, interlocking pattern, PATTERN, interlocking pattern constitute food web. Next point, under the natural condition of linear arrangement of food chain hardly occurs. That means what? That hardly you will find any food chain जो सिर्फ linear है, मतलब plants are only eaten by this particular species, ऐसा कभी नहीं होगा. Why? Because there are other species also dependent on it. So this phenomena like linear arrangement, this is known as linear. जो मैंने आपको previously दिखाया था, which is known as what? Year arrangement. This is known as linear arrangement. So that is what it is telling, that this kind of linear arrangement is difficult to find, right? So write down.
Ma'am,
Under
can you
the,
please repeat the second topic, second point?
yes, I can. Write down. Under natural condition of the, under natural condition of the linear arrangement of,
Ma'am, second one, the interconnected interlocking pattern.
acha, okay. The interconnected comma, interlocking pattern, the interconnected comma, interlocking pattern of food chain, of food chain constitute food web, constitute food web, full stop. Under natural condition, under natural condition of the linear arrangement of food chain hardly occurs. यहाँ तक सबने लिख लिया? And they remain interconnected, and they remain interconnected with each other through different types of organism, through different types of organisms at different levels, at different levels, such as different types of organisms at different levels. We can draw a chart also for this. First draw there. So this is what I'm drawing for food web.
Ma'am, after different levels such as?
अभी रुकिए, draw this diagram. Draw this. Can you see how they are interconnected with each other? Right? It's a complex, complicated food chain. Colin students, I hope everything is clear. Everyone completed? Okay. Now, please write down a note, important note. I talked about energy flow, right? So this energy flow, write down a note. Right? Who has given this energy flow thing? Write down law of 10% energy. Law of 10% energy. Law of 10% energy. It was given by Lindman. The law says, write down after this. And lot of times this has been asked in PCS. Directly the question will come, who has given this concept? देखा है आपने PCS की काफी सारा जो PYQ है, you will find that. अभी नहीं practice करना है. When we'll complete certain amount of portion, then you can start practicing, and you will find the relevance. Direct question है. ठीक है? Write down. The law.
Ma'am, what's written there? It was given by?
Already. It's written on the blackboard, Lindman. Okay, now write down. The law says, write down. The law says only 10% of the energy. Underline the word 10%. The law says only 10% of the energy is transferred from one trophic level to the next in a food chain. To the next in the food chain.
Ma'am, can you please repeat this point?
Yes, I know these things. Okay. The law says only 10%. The law says only 10% of the energy is transferred from one trophic level to the next in a food chain. Next point, rest 90% of the energy 90% of the energy is utilized for respiration and other metabolic and other metabolic activities, or it is released as or it is released as heat, or it is released as heat. Next point. That is why trophic levels are limited up to, that is why trophic levels are limited up to 4 to 5 steps, are limited up to 4 to 5 steps. Just see at this linear arrangement. Everyone, please drop your pens and just look on the board. See, this is the plant, right? In the plant, if I say 90% of the energies is been stored, or for example, just 70 or 60% is stored and rest of them are used for its own processes like respiration, how much will be transferred here? What is the rule says? Only 10% of the energy will flow from this to this, right? Similarly, from here, whatever is left, 10% will flow from this to this. Then again, 10% will flow from this to this, and the last 10% will flow from this to this, right? That is why the steps of the food chain are only limited to 4 to 5 steps. Why? Because there is no energy left here to be transferred to any other species, right? Because the rule says only 10% of energy should be transferred, not more than that. Okay? And that can be deferred depending upon what species we are talking about. इसका कोई एवरेज नहीं है कि इतना ही कैलोरीज आपका ट्रांसफर होगा. Why? Because every species has different what? Their own processes, right, which are being used. So plants say grasshopper में 10% of energy, 10% of energy, and this is a law which is given. So whenever it comes, for example, in mains, if you have to write the answer, then you can describe this law, and apart from that, if it comes in prelims, then obviously you have the notes ready. Okay? Done? We'll not write abhi, we'll have discussion. Okay? What are pyramids? What? Triangle shape. कहाँ पे मिलते हैं? Egypt में. Do you know the story of them? Who built it? Huh? Aliens? Right? You must have seen some movies on the pyramids also, right? So in Egypt, this is a very important that it's a science, the way they have been drawn. But why we are using pyramids here in environment? ट्रॉफिक लेवल को शो करने के लिए. ठीक है. सो क्या दिखाता है? व्हाट डज अ पिरामिड? हैव यू एवर ड्रॉन पिरामिड किसी भी चीज के लिए? क्या दिखाता है? व्हाट द बेस लेवल शोज? वो तो शेप है उसका नैरो, बट व्हाट डज सिग्निफाइज? हाँ,
मैम लेवल टू लेवल.
नहीं, लेवल टू लेवल ठीक है, बट आई एम नॉट आस्किंग स्पेसिफिकली अबाउट पर्टिकुलर सब्जेक्ट. आई एम टॉकिंग इन जनरल कि किसी भी. हाँ, very good, right, right. So can I say the base level shows more amount, right? rather than as it goes up. Why? Because it gets narrow, right? Do not learn anything just for the sake of learning. ठीक है, इसलिए मैं पिरामिड समझा रही हूँ आपको कि पिरामिड्स का सिग्निफिकेशन क्या है, सिग्निफाई क्या करते हैं, व्हाट इज द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ देम. ओके, सो पिरामिड्स जो होते हैं, अब जो नीचे वाला लेवल है वो क्या डिफाइन करेगा आपका डाइवर्सिटी. ठीक है, अब डिपेंड करता है कि आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट विच वन. maybe I'm talking about biomass, maybe I'm talking about numbers, maybe I'm talking about energy flow, right? Then this pyramid will get converted. एक तो pyramid की shape ये है, which I call it as upright. Excellent. And the another shape is inward. Maximum times you will have the use of upright only. Maximum times. ठीक है? But wherever it is required, you will use the inverted also. Done? इतना सबको समझ में आ रहा है? Now write down ecological pyramids. You have another name also of it, although it is hardly used. Eltonian pyramids. It is hardly used, this word, but still I'm telling you. Write down first point. It is a graphical representation of the ecosystem. It is the graphical representation of the ecosystem. कैसा है? ग्राफिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन. Write down the different species in the food chain. The different species in the food chain are called trophic levels. The different species in a food chain are called trophic levels. Full stop. Each food chain has 3 trophic levels. Each food chain has 3 trophic levels, comma, producers, comma, consumers, and decomposers. Full stop. Thus, graphical representation of this trophic level, graphical representation, here is the spelling, graphical representation of these trophic levels is called ecological pyramids. Ecological pyramids. Full stop. It was devised by ecologist. It was devised by ecologist Charles Elton. That's why the name Eltonian pyramids as well. Charles Elton. Now write down types of ecological pyramids. Types of ecological what are the types? First, write down pyramids of number. Pyramids of energy. Let people draw it. People are still writing. Write down. They show the relationship between, in first write down pyramids of number, then I'll explain biomass. Acha, how do you define number? Wait, just see this. Number means number of species that we are talking about. That producers are more than the consumers. Which consumers we are talking about? Maybe herbivores, maybe carnivores, right? They all are consumers. Okay, so herbivore, this is a primary producer who plants. Then we have consumers. आप लोगों के लिए I'm telling you this. ठीक है? Primary producers, right? And then we have consumers. That is the only information required here. Primary producers can be anything, your plants, different plant species. अब consumers में क्या आएगा? Herbivores आ सकते हैं और carnivores आ सकते हैं. ठीक है? Herbivores are only eating plants and carnivores can be your flesh. ठीक है? So this is what. अब नंबर पिरामिड्स ऑफ नंबर में हम ये डिस्कस करेंगे कि स्पीच प्रोड्यूसर्स ज्यादा है या फिर कार्निवोर्स या हर्बीवोर्स ज्यादा है. उनका ट्रॉफिक लेवल कैसा होगा? ऑब्वियसली सेकंड, थर्ड, राइट? So now write down. They show the relationship between pyramids of number के अंदर लिखिए. They show the relationship between producers, comma, herbivores and carnivores at successive trophic levels. Successive trophic levels in terms of their numbers. In terms of their numbers. Right? Next point. In case of pond ecosystem, in case of pond, P-O-N-D, pond ecosystem, the producers are mainly, spellings I'm writing on the board, I know these are some difficult spelling. Producers are mainly phytoplanktons. What are phytoplanktons? We have this. These are type of plants. कहाँ पे मिलते हैं? Under the sea, or maybe ponds, rivers. Basically, sea में मिलते हैं. Phyto means light, right? So these are phytoplanktons, right? Write down. Are mainly phytoplankton and are always maximum in number.
मैम ये वाला पॉइंट रिपीट कर दीजिए प्लीज.
Okay. In case of pond ecosystem, the producers are mainly phytoplankton and are always maximum in number. This number then shows a decrease towards apex as primary consumer. I'll explain each and everything, just write down now. As primary consumers are, I'm again repeating, and are always maximum in number, this number then shows a decrease towards apex. APEX, apex, shows decrease towards apex as primary consumers are zooplanktons, are zooplanktons, which are lesser in number than phytoplankton, which are lesser in number than phytoplankton, full stop. Thus, the shape of pyramids is upright. Thus, the shape of pyramids is upright, full stop. ये देखिए. So this is the base. उसके बाद it will decrease like this. This is called pyramid. Now this is the base. So this is what your phytoplanktons. Your phytoplanktons will be more because we are talking about numbers. So here the numbers of them is going to be always more. And also this is representing ट्रॉपिक लेवल फर्स्ट. पहला ट्रॉपिक लेवल है जहां से फूड चेन स्टार्ट हो रहा है, राइट. दिस रिप्रेजेंटिंग ट्रॉपिक लेवल सेकंड. फाइटोप्लैंक्टन्स ईटन बाय zooplankton. Zooplanktons are further eaten by fishes. The fishes are further eaten by whales. Now tell me one thing. Now phytoplanktons will be more in number, right? That's why the base is bigger, right? And this is known as apex. Like you go like this is known as what? ठीक है, जैसे आप ऊपर जा रहे हैं, this is known as apex. And here you have the pointed one. Why? Because whales are a very important part of the ecosystem, although they are very less. They are very, very less. That's why it is shown here. Numbers खुद बता रहे हैं, whales are less than the phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktons will be more, whales will be less. But whales are very, very important part of the ecosystem. The study shows that if you don't have any whales in the water ecosystem, or you don't have any whales in the aquatic ecosystem, then it will collapse. It will collapse. There are studies on that which has shown that. No whales means no aquatic ecosystem. These are the whales who are sustaining the aquatic ecosystem. Okay. Now, what are the reasons why whales are being captured? For what purpose? Start reading, studying, watching documentaries. Huh? So they're very part of the ecosystem too. There are a lot of documentaries present on the whales, and we are stopping the fishing industry from doing the reckless cutting and capturing of the whales. but this is beyond, like you cannot do that. Reason being, because there are some countries who are highly dependent on that. Their whole economy works on that. Which is that country? One of them is Japan. The tuna fish. Tuna. How many of you know? People who eat fish must be knowing that better, right? Tuna are one of the rarest of the rarest, right? Why? They are getting endangered, right? But still they are being captured. They claim, a lot of times they claim that they are not doing that. But in the hindsight, if you see, they're still working. The nexus is still working. They're still capturing it like anything. And then we talk about what? There is a documentary which shows that sustainable eating, sustainable way of fishing. And that when that person went to the different places, he found nothing sustainable about fishing. Can you tell me one method in which cutting of the fishes or anything will be sustainable? कोई ऐसा तरीका which you know, जितना आपने पढ़ा है अभी तक? कोई वे है सस्टेनेबल? सिर्फ लिखने से सस्टेनेबल नहीं हो जाती ना कोई चीज. If I'm selling the product just by writing sustainable, it doesn't become sustainable at all. Sustainable means what? Yes, and it's not harming anybody else. If I am consuming something, it is not harming anybody else. So one fish that you are eating, which is on a plate, has a huge cost. Why? Because there are many fishes which are being harmed just by capturing those one fish. Or maybe I'm talking about whale, that one whale. Okay? So they figured out in that documentary, they figured out that the capturing of the whales, etc., it's not at all sustainable. Although they do claim that that is a sustainable way, we are practicing it, but there's nothing sustainable in that. Forget about that. The meshes that you use for capturing the fishes, the meshes are itself are of plastics. And then you engulf that plastic, or any fish or any whale that engulfs that plastic, that stuck in their stomach. And which is a very horrible sight. So if you want to really understand these things, start watching this. इसमें क्या होगा, आपको examples भी आएंगे. कहाँ पे आएंगे examples? कहाँ पे लिखने के लिए? मेंस आंसर राइटिंग में लिखने के लिए. उसमें सिर्फ आप ये नहीं बताएंगे, आप ये भी बता सकते हैं. जब आप pollution के बारे में बात करेंगे, we can talk about all that. And when you see the things, then you retain it in a better way. You understand it in a better way. Right?
Ma'am, I have a confusion that why you said कि whales are important part of that aquatic ecosystem, and the second thing is कि आपने बोला कि whales को काफी मारा जा रहा है, but किस चीज के लिए मारा जा रहा है उसको?
खाने के लिए.
Okay, and what about why it is important part of ecosystem, ma'am, aquatic के लिए?
For that we will have a separate discussion in the class. Okay? For that you can watch the documentary. It's present there on the Netflix. Watch that documentary. Very important for all the environment students, like people who are. Okay? Watch that. Then we'll have a good discussion on that. Okay? So this is a phytoplanktons. ठीक है? Phytoplanktons के बाद zooplanktons. Zooplanktons के बाद fishes and then whales. Whales are least in number. Then also they are very important. Similarly goes for other fishes also. अब ये जैसे कम होता जा रहा है, क्या होता जा रहा है, ये रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है नंबर्स. यहाँ तक किसी को प्रॉब्लम है किसी भी पार्ट में? नहीं. ठीक है, दूसरा लिखिए. But in the case of forest ecosystem, next para, but in the case of forest ecosystem, the pyramids is always inverted. Because the producers are mainly large trees, comma, are lesser in numbers, are large trees, comma, lesser in numbers, comma, the herbivores, fruit eating birds, herbivores, fruit eating birds are more in number than the producers. Comma, then there is a gradual decrease. Then there is a gradual decrease in number of secondary consumers, thus making pyramids upright again. Write down a note under this. Thus, the pyramid of number does not give a true picture of the food chain, does not give the true picture of the food chain, and are not very functional. And are not very functional. What we talked about? Let's repeat it. Okay. Write down. Thus, the pyramid of number does not give a true picture of the food chain and are not very functional. देखिए, so I'm talking about.
Ma'am,
हाँ, yes, बोलिए.
ma'am, can you please repeat this point before this note?
What I've written before the note, please tell me.
But in the case of forest ecosystem, the pyramid is always inverted because the producers are mainly
Large trees. See this.
large.
Trees. TREES.
Okay, thank you.
This is a tree, right? एक ही ट्री है, लार्ज ट्री. इसके ऊपर फ्रूट ईटिंग, birds eating species, sorry, seed eating species. It could be birds and it could be many. कितने हो सकते हैं? 100. कितने भी हो सकते हैं? 200, depending upon the size of the, or maybe depending on the canopy, कितनी बड़ी है tree की, right? Then further, what about parasites which are staying here on the tree? Can be more than this, right? It can be 1000. And then hyperparasites, मतलब और ज़्यादा जो parasites हैं, that can be also more. So can you see एक ही tree number of tree 1, number of birds dependent on this, any number between 100, 500, right, depending upon how big is the tree. Then parasites even more than that, that is actually becomes very countless. Why? Because you cannot see that through the naked eyes. And then hyperparasites. So how should the pyramid look like? कैसा लगना चाहिए pyramid सा? हाँ? Inverted. क्यों? This is one. Birds, many. Parasites, hyperparasites. Right? Now write down in this. First make this. Write down any tree. You can write oak tree, name of any tree. Then birds. Then parasites. Then hyper. In this you can write down lice, bugs. And in this you can write down bacteria, fungi.
मैम सबसे ऊपर हाइपर पैरासाइट्स लिखा है क्या आपने?
Yes, yes. There is another part of the sentence which I've written. अब क्या होगा? ये कौन किसको खा रहा है? Oak tree, birds. Birds के ऊपर क्या है? Parasites. Parasites के ऊपर hyper parasites. ठीक है? अब understand these birds. अब क्या होगा? Now the consumers, right, which are dependent on birds, फिर से क्या हो जाएंगे? कम हो जाएंगे. क्यों? Birds को कौन खाएगा? Eagle, right? या फिर anybody else? So what will happen now? It will again become like this. ये आपका second half of the para बोल रहा है, right? There will be a gradual decrease in the consumers who are dependent on the birds. They will have the gradual decrease, and then again it will become upright. ठीक है? इतना पार्ट अगर समझ में नहीं आ रहा है तो कोई बात नहीं, सिर्फ इतना ही समझेंगे. Done? सेपरेटली करेंगे, इतना टफ आता नहीं है. Getting everyone? Just revise and let me know. Take your time, 1 minute, and let me know. Because people are asking me the name of the documentary. It is Cease Piracy. Watch this. Cease Piracy. Available on Netflix. Good for your understanding of how this pollution में काम आएगा. Example. Directly लिख सकते हैं. They have talked about lot of commissions, different organizations also. International organizations. All right. Now we have 5 minutes left. We'll just discuss, not write anything. What is pyramid of biomass? Biomass. Bio means life. So your bio का different mass. So what do you think? How should be the mass? What should be the mass of grass versus lines or deers who are dependent on them? The lines who are dependent on deer. What should be the mass? कैसा होना चाहिए? Upright? क्यों? आप ऐसे देखोगे एक स्मॉल सेक्शन में ग्रास तो बहुत छोटा सा है. Then why I'm seeing that biomass of grasses are more? क्यों? Have you seen how grasses are spread over? They're spread over to big lands, acres of land, hectares of land. And if you club all of them and start weighing, they are much, much more than the weight of your lions, your tigers, etc. ठीक है? That is why. अगर स्मॉल एक सिर्फ एक साइड में आप देख रहे हो कि छोटे से ग्रास है, इसका तो वेट बहुत ज़्यादा लाइट है, ठीक है? We are not considering that. We are considering the weight which are spread over to many acres of land. ठीक है? And then we'll consider it. That's why the biomass is ज़्यादा. और कैसा होता है फिर pyramid? Upright. ठीक है? किसी को कोई डाउट इसमें? किसी को ये समझने में प्रॉब्लम हो रही है कि ग्रास तो इतना छोटा सा है तो फिर इसका वेट ज़्यादा कैसे? सिर्फ एक ग्रास की बात नहीं हो रही है. हाँ? Okay, write down. The pyramids of biomass. The pyramids of biomass represents the relationship between different trophic levels in terms of biomass. In terms of biomass. First off, there is gradual decrease in biomass of organisms at successive levels. There is gradual decrease in biomass of organism at successive levels from the producers to the top carnivores. From the producers to the top carnivores. First off, the pyramid of biomass. The pyramids of biomass is upright. The pyramid of biomass is upright. Underline. For grassland ecosystem. This is very important. For grassland ecosystem. First off, however, in the case of Cont, however, in the case of Cont, as the producers are algae, comma, are least in number, and this value gradually shows increase towards the apex of pyramid, thus making pyramids inverted in shape. we'll have a discussion on this. Why? So if I say, just tell me one statement, biomass is always upright. The statement is false or true? False. Why? Because I've given the para where I've also shown it is also upright and inverted as well, but in different scenarios that we'll discuss tomorrow. All right. Thank you so much.